Welcome, marketing chefs. I've got something truly special cooking in our Omni-Channel oven today. Marketing Kitchen TV Q&A Live Episode 3. Up next in the Marketing Kitchen. Welcome to the kitchen, the Marketing Kitchen. Hi, I'm Ron Vining, your host of Marketing Kitchen TV. I would like to welcome you back here for episode 3 of the Marketing Kitchen TV Q&A Live. I've posted up episode 1 and episode 2. You can see them on our companion Twitter feed, which is at MarketingKitchenTV. And if you type in the hashtag Q&A, then you'll be able to see all the questions that have been posted. And if you want to ask me a question, then you can go to our Twitter feed, use that hashtag, and I will answer your question here. I'm going to just scroll down very quickly to go where we left off, and I'm going to go through all of these in several more episodes before I get to the current ones that are there. Is it Notion? I believe Notion, Notion, all right, anyway, I think it's Notion, and if it's not, tell me, and in the next video, I'll make sure I say your name correctly. You asked the question, storytelling is good content for marketing, but why every business needs to establish some good, great content to get the attention of their audience? All right. Storytelling is something that I have specialized in over the years. I love to tell a good story. And tying it back in, I used to be a political consultant. And my political idol was President Ronald Reagan. And when he ran for office, he did basically a story-based campaign where it was a city on a hill. And it referred to the fact that America was that city on the hill that we should be looking to. It should rise above the ashes. It should rise above the fray. It should be a beacon. It should be a light. It should be hope. And his entire campaign was based on that notion. And why was that? Because at the time that he was running, America was just coming out of the Vietnam War, the oil crisis, the Iranian hostage crisis. Years prior to that was the Watergate incident. So America wasn't that bright, shiny city on the hill, and it wasn't thought of. There wasn't hope. And one of the things that Reagan wanted to do in his campaign was to present the narrative of the story of hope. And when I got into political consulting, one of the things that I did is I did a lot of research about what made Reagan so successful. And I applied a lot of those theories to those particular campaigns. And that was about telling a narrative. So from the start of the campaign till the end of the campaign, it was one story arc leading up to from the time one launched to election day. And that narrative was that message that would then stick with and resonate with the audience. Much so like a radio or TV ad, where things are repeated several times so that they sink in. It's just a advertising or marketing tactic. So storytelling helps in that particular way to do that. And so that was a brief overview of that. I'm going to go back to the timer, and now I'll answer the specific aspect of your question that was there. And again, trying to keep my responses to 2 minutes each. All right, so you asked the question why every business needs to establish some good or great content to get the attention of the audience. Well, because of the landscape that we're in now, there is just so many messages being bombarded across so many different channels. Take for myself and for my businesses, I probably have, active anyway, I probably actively have 40 social media accounts. I've probably registered over 100. So there's about 30, 40 active social media accounts with the potential of 100 channels that I could disseminate my message. And of course, those would be channels on platforms. And then of course, those channels are on every platform, whether they be YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Line, WeChat, Snap, boom, LinkedIn, did I say that already? Anyway, all of them. So they're there. So you as the consumer will see messages, not just from one brand, but from every brand, and then also with user-generated content from just about every consumer or individual that shares. And so that can become a bit tricky, a bit noisy, a bit loud. So what you want to do is, by having a great story and by having great content, be able to get your message noticed amongst all of that clutter. And one of the reasons why storytelling works is that think about a favorite TV series that you might have. If you, what do you do? Before the age of streaming anyway, but even some streaming channels will post content on just a weekly basis, right? So what happens is you tune in each week, week after week after week. Why? Because you want to follow the story. And hitting that 2-minute mark there, it's because you want to follow the story. And by doing so, you're engaged or connected with that particular brand, and that brand being a TV series or a TV network or whatever, a streaming network, whatever you want to call it. And by being connected to that, you will keep coming back. And then what I could do is then I can introduce a new series. So let's take Disney Plus. When Disney Plus launched, they launched with a few original new series, one of them being The Mandalorian, which was a huge hit. Netflix has had several key series like The Witcher, like The Dark Crystal. Some other ones are escaping me now. Amazon Prime has launched with The Boys. It's launched with Jack Ryan, High Castle. There's a number of different compelling programming that will get you to go to that particular platform. So you want to think about your own marketing in that same way, by putting out consistently compelling content that's unique, and if it's serialized in a story, it'll keep the audiences coming back. So anyway, I hope I answered your question there. All right, Danny asked the question, there are many marketing metrics you can try, but there are only four important keys must have to make you success. Consumption metrics, sharing metrics, lead generation metrics, and sales metrics. Okay, Danny, where's your question? Okay, so yeah, what did you want me to answer there? All right, please make sure that you're asking a question so that I have something that I can answer. All right, this is a promoted post. So skipping that. All right, Lynn asks, the World Health Organization declared the coronavirus outbreak a pandemic. Would the virus make paid search advertising business sick too? Okay, interesting. And before I answer that question, the head of the World Health Organization needs to be fired because he completely hid what was happening in China from the globe. And he has failed in his leadership ever since the world has known about it. So he has to go. So now let me answer your question. Let's see. So would the virus make paid search advertising business sick too? And no, the answer is no. I know there was another question that was asked about with all of the noise, and rightly so, that the virus is disrupting regular online communication. You know, how does that then, and the fact that the economies around the globe have been shut down, wrongly so, then you know, how does that impact search advertising? And it doesn't. I think that you could certainly take great advantage of the economy that we are in at this moment in time that we're there. There are certain businesses that will fail as a result of what's happened, and then there are a number of other businesses that will enrich themselves and become much stronger as a result of this. There are a number of startups that are going to be able to take advantage of this, and they wouldn't have been even recognized if this incident hadn't have happened. This incident is driving people into their homes, driving them online, utilizing technology that they may have never used before. So by utilizing paid search advertising, you could certainly be able to capture the audience amongst all of their searches and then get them to your platform, whether that be your website, whether that be your app, or maybe it's you're looking to promote or grow one of your social channels, or you've got some particular service that you can offer during this time. So, all right, good question, Lynn. And then look at this. I actually went ahead of time on that. Whew, that's how I actually answered a question under 2 minutes. I don't know how that's possible. All right, let's see. Mariah asked the question, is transforming legacy systems necessary for every company in order to stay relevant? That's a good one. Okay, the answer is no. And why is that? As a business consultant, I've gone into companies throughout my career and been asked questions about how do I go from here to here, or what do I need to do to make my business successful, remain successful. So I mean, you either want to remain at the status quo, of course increasing a little bit each year to keep up with the rising costs, or you want to exponentially grow your businesses. There are some people who actually even want to shrink their businesses for various reasons. Maybe that's tax, maybe that's to focus on specialize in a particular area, so be the best in one as opposed to having different lines. So when you talk about transforming legacy systems, it has to be smart. All right, let's say, here's the simplest example. Let's say that the latest software comes out for your, for your Mac, your PC. Do you need to buy the latest software in order for your business continuity to continue? And the answer is most likely no. So there's no need to rush out and upgrade unless it's absolutely necessary for you to do that. For example, if you have a CRM system that is working just fine for your existing needs, and a salesperson pitches you on the latest and greatest CRM, even if that might save you money, is it necessary for you to retrain, update all of your processes to adapt to that? The answer is probably no, because net it would probably be a washout, or it could end up costing you disruption to business. So I would say that not every company needs to upgrade every system, and in order to remain relevant. You really have to be smart about that. And there's a number of old patriarchal businesses, if you will, especially small businesses, that are doing just fine using the same tried and true techniques that they've been doing since they started. And there's nothing worse than change for the sake of change. So you change when it's necessary to advance your business. You may want to make changes to get ahead of the curve as well, and that's fine, but don't just change for the sake of it. So anyway, good basically fundamental operational question for a business, and many wonder that. And the worst consultants out there are the ones who sell you a program for you to make a change just for the sake of change, and that is not the right course of action. The best consultant will be one, here's an example, my dentist. I think I have the best dentist in the world back in Medford, Massachusetts. His name is Lorenzo Lapori, and here I'll put a plug in for him right here. One of the things that I most admire about him is that when I've seen a dentist here in Singapore or other dentists back in the US, they had said, oh, you need to pull that tooth, or oh, that you have a hairline crack, let us, we need to fix that immediately. As opposed to my lifelong dentist, Lorenzo Lapori. He says straight up, the way I see it, if it doesn't hurt, why would I tinker with it? There's nothing worse than disrupting a tooth that is working just fine. And so in other words, he's not looking to make money on me, he's looking for the best interest of my mouth. And you want to have a consultant who has that same philosophy or approach. All right, just trying to give simple example for more complex issues. And obviously it can certainly be more complex than that, but Just trying to put it in those terms there. All right, Ben asked the question, due to the fact that there are hundreds of social media platforms and the popularity of the app would change years after years, should the company have to presence and maintenance on all social media networks? Okay, just an aside to everyone, and not just you, Ben, but there's a number of you guys that are tweeting without proofreading your tweets. And one of the things that I do personally is I'll construct a tweet and I'll send it out, and then what do? I go and I look at it again. And why do I look at it again? Because that minute that I've hit tweet or retweet, I notice my mistakes. So I encourage everybody to send out a tweet, look at it, make sure that it's clear, and if it's not, copy it, delete it, paste it back in, and then make your modifications, then hit tweet again. It makes it's because you can't edit tweets, unfortunately, but it's important. If you only have 280 characters, make sure that you're saying exactly what it is that you want to say. All right, I think I know what your question is, though I'm not 100% clear, but let me try to answer it for you. Yeah, so the thing is that, yeah, there are, as I mentioned before, I have up to 100 different social media accounts across every platform. I'm only using actively 30 to 40 of them at various points in time. The thing is that, let's first talk about platforms, social platforms. Never create an account that you're not going to do something with it. And if you decide you're not going to do something with it, then perhaps you should probably kill it, or you should put an announcement on there that it's not active at the present time, but it will be. I have created several accounts over the years with the intention of using them later. But again, I put that disclaimer on there that it's work in progress, we'll be looking to launch something at a specific date. And why do something like that? Because you're staking a claim on a particular name. Think about it. So for example, everything that I do on social, I use the name, and so it's up here in the corner, I use Ron Vining, except for Twitter and Instagram. Now, I actually did create a Ron Vining on Instagram, but somehow it's not attributed to me, so nobody's using it, and Facebook won't give it to me, but even though I created it. On Twitter, somebody beat me to the punch and they registered the Ron Vining, so I only have Ronald Vining, which that just disrupts. We talked about canonical URLs, right, for SEO. Anyway, that just really irks me that I don't have access to that, and that person isn't using the Ron Vining, but I'm stuck with Ronald Vining. So the reason why you would want to stake a claim on things before you're even going to use them is because somebody else will. Don't go out and publish a website with your name on it, like your business name on it, without first registering all social channels with that same name. Because as soon as somebody sees that, and especially if it gets a little traction, they'll register them. You won't have them. They might blackmail you, or you just might be brand disruption because you won't have access to it. You talk about also should company have presence and maintenance on all networks? So yeah, I think the answer to a certain degree is yes, but again, it has to be relevant for your business. So I would register it and I would have a presence there, even if that only presence is directing them to another social channel or to your website. So for example, AppFlix. And so with AppFlix, when I registered the domain name for it, I then attempted to buy every domain name related to it. I then went and registered on every social platform something related to that name that wasn't already taken. And I'm directing them all to the website. I'm currently not doing anything on social about it because I haven't launched the website yet. But again, I wanted to stake claim or a presence there. And again, if it's just to forward people to the site, then that's all you need to do. And anyway, I hope that answers your question, Ben. If not, please ask a follow-up. And speaking of follow-ups, Ben has a second question here. So let me tackle that one. After seeing the bankruptcy of Forever 21, does it mean the decline of the fast fashion trend? Would consumers prefer more reliable and better quality clothing in the future? All right, that's a great question. I love retail. If you haven't been, I have a Twitter feed and a LinkedIn group called CMO Retail. And so it's just at CMO Retail, and then just search for the LinkedIn group CMO Retail as well. And great question. Let me try to answer that one for you there. Well, certainly Forever 21 is not the only fast fashion trend. As this plane goes by, let me take a water break. Certainly Zara is at the top of the food chain there. They pretty much paved the way and made a big name for that. I think even before that, I remember back when I worked in the Meadow Glen Mall in Medford, Massachusetts, which is no longer there. It's sort of is there. It's a Marshall's, a Wegmans, Kohl's, but the Tello's was one of the first firms to do that. Then, of course, yes, there is Zara that is quite well known. Forever 21 folded for other reasons, and basically family business. I believe the story went, you just Google about what happened to Forever 21. It's a typical story of somebody taking over a family business, leveraging those assets to then go and do something non-related to the core business, and then having those fail, and then the core business fails as a result of that. So check that story out. So that does not mean the decline of the fast fashion trend at all. Do consumers prefer more reliable and better quality clothing in the future? Well, let me give an example of an Android device versus an iOS device. And to answer this, I would liken the fast fashion trend to just about every single Android device. Most of them are pieces of crap, and I'm sorry, I know a lot of you are using an Android device, but it is an inferior product for the most part to an iPhone. And why do people buy them? Because they're a lot cheaper. And if it works, then it doesn't matter, right? When it comes to fast fashion, a lot of people just want to buy something new to wear, and they don't want to spend a ton of money for it. Again, same reason, Android versus iOS, and I understand that completely, especially when my premium Apple products fail. And thankfully, and knock on silicon, I've not had an iPhone fail me yet, but I've certainly had an Apple Watch fail me twice. Haven't had an iPad fail me yet, so that's why I still have this trusty guy here. But I have had every single MacBook that I've ever bought has failed. So there's something to be said about premium versus cheap, and the customer service that you might expect to get with that. And I think that there are always going to be two types of consumers, with then another segment, I guess, riding the middle. There will be the ones that just want something cheap, and there will be the ones that want something that is considered premium, assuming that it will be reliable. But that's not always the case, right? So, and then, somebody that just rests in the middle of that fulcrum that's there. All right, hope that answers your question, Ben. Samantha, let's see. You ask, should companies use pay-per-click, SEM, and biddable media simultaneously, or should they focus their marketing budgets on one technique? Do you already know what I'm going to say? I do. Okay, so the timer has started. I would say that you would want to use a combination of tactics based upon your experience and based upon, of course, your budget. And if you have budget and you have experience, then I would say go for the most hybrid campaign that you possibly can do. I'm a firm believer in Omni-Channel, and that means any channel that enables me to reach my customer, or enables my customer to find and reach me. And I would do it simultaneously. For those that do not have a wealth of experience in any of these, if you have budget, I would say take a little tiny bit, and I would do a 7-day, 14-day, or even a 1-month trial campaign utilizing one of these particular areas that you mentioned and others, so that you can begin to get a feel for how to make use of the different techniques that are there, so that as you get increasingly greater budgets, you can play around with it and you can become more adept to utilizing every channel possible to you. So, hope that answers your question. Wow, I did that one under time also. I like this timer. This is good. Samantha, you ask another question, which is fantastic. As content marketing continues to grow, will consumers start to ignore the messages? Will consumers become frustrated with the amount of sponsored posts and emails a company sends out? I bet you know what I'm going to say. Yes. For example, my favorite clothing brand is Banana Republic, owned by the Gap company. I have a Banana Republic credit card, and of course I'm subscribed to the Banana Republic email list. And with that, because I purchase from both Banana Republic and Banana Republic Factory Outlet, and of course the Banana Republic online stores of both of those, I get a lot of emails from them. Too many emails from them. And unfortunately, they don't allow me to set a parameter to how much I want to receive, like some brands do. And so I really want to just terminate that email connection with them. But I'm living in Asia, especially in Singapore, there's this term being called kasu, which means don't want to lose out. So I don't want to lose out on seeing when there's going to be some blowout sale, even though there seems to be a sale 5 times a day. So yeah, as far as EDMs go, a brand should be very careful about not spamming their own lists. And these are for ones that you sign up to. I hate getting emails from somebody that I never gave permission to email me. And so much for spam cam and all of these stupid regulations that were supposed to help out consumers. What they do is they harm the good businesses, and they haven't stopped the spammers, right? So every conference that I've gone to and I've spoken at, and I give somebody my business card, I get spammed. Every person that connects with me on LinkedIn, they get my email address and then they spam me. And it's a bad way to do business, in my opinion. It's not how I would do it, but I guess what do I know? So will consumers, though, become frustrated with the amount of sponsored posts and emails? Well, so yes, let's talk about your sponsored post pieces. How are you going to control that one, though, Samantha? How are you going to prevent a brand from spending the money, let's say on Instagram and Facebook, from promoting their content? Now, if they're smart, what they're doing is that they're utilizing an algorithm, and they're using the data that those platforms are connecting on you, and they're putting out their A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way to Z, beta testing different ads with different copy, images, and content. And specific to who you are as the consumer, those are being the ads that you're seeing. So they should be relevant specifically to you and your needs. And as long as a brand is doing that, I don't think any of us are offended by that. But when we're seeing things that are totally irrelevant to us, then of course we find them offensive. If we're seeing things that are also creepy to us, so for example, if I send an email to someone that hey, let's go to visit Star Wars Land at Anaheim Disneyland, and then no less than 10 seconds later, I'm scrolling through my feed on Facebook or on Instagram, and I see an ad for Star Wars Land. maybe I appreciate that, or maybe I find that absolutely creepy. So, when in terms of content marketing, there was a question that I answered in either episode 1 or episode 2 of this series, where it was asked about the frequency of content. And I think as long as it's okay to repeat content as long as it isn't overdone. And what is overdone? Overdone is like at Thanksgiving to Christmas, when a particular TV channel runs a Christmas story 24 hours a day for X amount of time. Or what I love is, I used to love the Twilight Zone marathons around in between Christmas and New Year. But if there weren't other channels to tune into, that would get old really fast. So you can repeat your content, but you want to also make sure that you weave in new content at its place. So at least every other should be different, but it's probably better if every 5 or every 10 that you have unique before it repeats again. I will just answer a couple of more questions for this particular episode, and then I'll close that out. And then I will start with a new one, so that I'm keeping each of these at about the same time level, so about 30 minutes plus or minus. And then I'll record episode 4 back to back with this one. I appreciate you tuning in for these, and I really appreciate your questions. I know we missed out on one of our live lectures. I think I'm either going to try doing a YouTube live, so our BBC will not be using Blackboard Collaborate. I'm thinking about doing a YouTube live, and so let me know if you'd be interested in that. I actually might have the largest attendance ever for a live lecture, since everybody's in lockdown. And I think the date of that was April 7th. So, all right, anyway, I'll be letting you know about that. And for those of you who are not one of my students at UMass Boston, if we are doing a YouTube live, you are welcome to participate as well. The more the merrier, to talk about all things marketing, digital communication, branding, tech, you name it. Anything that fits into the category of digital marketing or internet marketing is fair game. David, yours will actually be the last question I'll answer for episode 3, and then we'll pick up in episode 4 with you, Danielle. How's that sound? All right, David asks, what is the most crippling issue for websites when it comes to technical SEO? Is there a common shortcoming in this area? And Dave, I think I answered this question in episode 1, and I think that might have been the first one, but I'll just tackle, I never say the same thing twice, even if it's the same thing. So just because some random new idea comes to mind. Okay, let's see what we have here. All right, what is the most crippling issue for websites when it comes? Yeah, it is. I had mentioned canonical, your canonical hierarchy that was there. I think that is certainly one that would trip it up as the airplane goes overhead. I think one of the other most crippling issues is when it comes to SEO, is the fact of hiring the wrong person. Now, I ran into the issue with my AppFlix website, as I had mentioned in a prior episode, where I hired a programmer who failed me. I'm 2 programmers in, both of them have completely failed me. And when hiring an SEO consultant, you want to make sure that you hire somebody who knows what they're doing. And they really not only understand SEO, but they understand the design of the site in relation to SEO. And they also have some breadth of understanding about messaging. Because one of the key things about SEO, especially with pairing it with SEM, is making sure with your meta tags and the keywords that you're embedding into your site, as well as in the hierarchy of that website, that there's a specific flow to it that fits with how not only you talk about your brand, but how your customers talk about your brand. And one fight that I've gotten into in the past with people who are SEO experts is the fact that they, and then fighting with brand agencies, some of the big ones, so we'll name them, like Ogilvy would be one in particular, everyone in the Omnicom family. They're very big on creating these lofty messages that make your brand sound amazing. Well, the thing is that, yeah, you want to have that spin in press releases, and you want the media to talk about you that way because you want to elevate yourself from perhaps here to here. But what happens is that if you're not, when it comes to SEO and SEM, talking about your brand in the way that your consumers talk about your brand, they're not going to search for you utilizing these lofty keywords that are up here. They're going to search for you how they think about your brand, which might be here. So you want to use those when you're doing your meta tags and when you're even putting out your content, so that when your brand searches for you, they're finding you in the language they talk about you in, not the language that you talk about yourself. All right, thank you, David. So you started episode 1 and you're closing out episode 3 with the same question. And we'll pick up with you, Danielle, when we are in episode 4. So I'd like to thank you very much for tuning in, watching, subscribing. Yeah, please do that. If you could please give if you haven't subscribed already, and if you haven't liked, and also please comment on our videos. I would love to engage with you on this channel. If you have a question, please go to at MarketingKitchenTV, type in the hashtag Q&A. So you can take a look right here is in the banner that we have, and boy, I had trouble lining that one up. If you look in the banner, just go to MarketingKitchenTV to go straight to Twitter, or at MarketingKitchen TV for YouTube or Twitter, they're right there, and use the hashtag Q&A. Ask a question and I will answer it for you here. Thank you. See you again in episode 4. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, there's always fresh content simmering on our storytelling stovetop. So whatever happens in this kitchen shouldn't stay in this marketing kitchen. I'm Ron Vining, your host, reminding you to invite your family and friends to the next episode of Marketing Kitchen TV.